Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Indigo Unknown.
Indigo.
Episode 18 this week.
18. It should be
18's
17.
The classic 1-8. Yeah, 17 was a bit of a disaster.
Yeah.
Waylon was far too drunk.
No.
The subject matter was far too...
Drunk.
Yes. The Mothman was drunk,
Yeah.
and we apologize.
Yeah.
Should never put that out.
Yeah.
He didn't want to participate.
Too much wetness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Way too much
Everything
wetness.
was wet.
Yeah.
It was a real wet episode.
At least
It
we
was
can
a
say
episode.
moist.
Well, anyway, this week, episode 17, we're going to try to get back on track for you with a more serious subject.
Dry. So
Yeah, much
not really
drier.
dry.
Well, it's near the ocean.
Yeah.
It's semi-aquatic, but it's not a vagina, so we should be in good shape. This week, we're going to be covering the Coral Castle down in Florida.
Florida.
Camp Crystal Lake.
Yep.
Nope. The Coral Castle. So in 1913, there's this Latvian cat. Latvian.
Not lesbian.
Yeah. Lesbian kitten.
Latvian. Kitten.
No. He's a Latvian guy.
Yeah.
He's from Latvia. That's what I'm getting at. He emigrated to Florida, which is a weird place to...
Yeah. I'll choose
get your
Florida.
start there. Anyhow, his name is Ed Lead Skelnin. So that's going to be hard for us to say throughout the episode.
Ed.
So if we just say Ed or him,
Yeah.
you know who we're talking about. It's Mr. Lead Skelnin. So he happened to suffer. He actually came to New York first. I think it was New York. He was looking for work. He suffered from tuberculosis. No vaccination back then.
No.
Shame.
TV.
Yeah, that old TB.
TV.
The Holy Tribunal. So he decided that maybe being in a warmer environment would be better for his tuberculosis.
Humid.
Yeah.
A little moist down there.
A little bit
A little
moist.
wet. Yeah.
It's wet,
not
but it's
as
not
wet as... Yeah.
Anyway. So, had TB, moved on down to Florida to, I believe it was...
Spread it to those fuckers.
to Florida City, Florida.
Yeah.
His tuberculosis went away or was cured. There's some debate on that, but when people asked him about it, he said that he cured himself.
Or he was a hypochondriac.
Right,
Didn't even have it.
he was
He
nuts.
didn't
There was no
fucking have
problem. He was fine. They couldn't diagnose that back
It
then.
was a common cold.
Come on. Yeah.
I got
Bro had the
TB,
flu, and
I'm
he was
gonna
like, well, I
die.
got to Florida, and I felt fine. Yeah, it had been 6 weeks by then on the rail car.
Yeah.
The colonel cleaned the ash pans. Yeah. Anyhow, his tuberculosis went away when he got to Florida. He claimed, to people that cared to ask, he used magnets to cure himself of tuberculosis.
Yep.
So weird enough already, but the whole magnet thing may come into play later. He bought a little plot of land, like I said, in Florida City, Florida, and this was 1918.
Yeah.
So he'd been in the States for 5 years, living that American dream. In 1923, so he sat on that land for another 5 years, the little plot. He started constructing what they call the Coral Castle, which isn't actually coral, it's limestone.
In 1923, that's the same year the little boy froze his drink on the porch.
I think so.
Popsicles.
Yeah, that
Yep.
was the Epicicle. Frank Epicicle.
Yep, Frank.
Wonder if it's the
This
same
is
guy.
Tuberculosis. Ed.
It was tuberculosicles.
Yeah.
So he 1923 starts constructing what later became known as the Coral Castle. Large pieces of limestone, like boulders. We're talking
Pretty heavy.
around. It said they average 14 tons, which, if you don't know, that's 28,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So every time you do like a 35-pound curl, ain't shit
No.
compared to what this cat was moving. Ed was 5 foot tall, about 100 pounds, I think is what people estimated, people that knew him.
So he had AIDS, not TB.
So, yeah, he's a little bitty cat. He's shriveling up. People asked, like, how are you moving these rocks? And he told them, well, it's easy if you know how to do it. And I know the secrets of the people who built the pyramids.
Or the movie What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Yes, Gilbert Grape. If you
Used magnets to move the mother.
big girl,
Mom,
big girl.
dinner time.
How you doing, Mama?
Hold the South Pole.
Boy. Anyhow, he said that he knew the secrets of the people who built the pyramids. And if you know anything about the pyramids, there's some speculation as to how those came to be.
Aliens.
Yeah, could be. Edlian. That's the connection.
From New York.
So once he built all this stuff, he put up a little sign that said admission was 10 cents. And he offered tours of it, but he never allowed anyone to watch him work building these. I'll explain what all he built here in a minute. But over the course of 28 years, he sculpted this limestone into all these different shapes and furniture. Never let anyone see him work. And I remember, I think it was in a documentary. There was a quick, 40-minute documentary you could find on YouTube that Leonard Nimoy voiced.
I think it was called Limestone Cowboy.
Yeah, it was Limestone Cowboy. Yeah. I guess people would, try to sneak up on him to see how he was moving these rocks. Mm-hmm. So he only worked at night under cover of nightfall. People try to sneak up on him, but as soon as they started watching, he would just kind of stand still. Yeah. He would just stand there until they went away. Like he knew they were watching.
He'd close his eyes.
Yeah.
They can't see me.
Disappear. Yeah. Delusion. Anyhow, he offered the tours for 10 cents, never let anybody see how he built any of this stuff. Took him 28 years to complete it. He built 8-foot tall walls. He built towers, beds, tables, rocking chairs, sundials, a telescope. All this out of rock, a huge revolving rock door. Wow. A model of the moon, model of Jupiter, a model of Saturn, puzzles, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lambs, rams, hogs, dogs, chickens, turkeys, rabbits, you name it.
I'll name it.
That's a little reference there for you. Anyhow, that big-ass stone door, back when it was first built, in the early 19s, it could be moved with one finger. And there's footage of this from back in the day that people just, gently nudge it, and it kind of like a trap door, like you see in a movie, someone pulls a candlestick and it, whoop, Scooby-Doo status. That kind of thing. But it's just a big ass piece of stone that just spun gently.
Ever so gently.
Ever so gently.
Yeah.
It's had to be repaired a few times now because I think it was in the 80s.
And this was limestone?
It fucked up. Yeah, big ass piece of limestone. Yeah. Limestone Cowboy. The people who owned it at that point, because it's now a tourist attraction. Yeah. They had to repair it, and they found out that when they kind of disassembled it, they found that he had taken a big old metal shaft. Everybody loves a shaft, you know what I'm saying?
Especially a metal one.
Yeah, big old, just a fat shaft into that rock, into that hard rock that he had taken, shoved in there, and put it on a big, on a large, kind of bearing, or, that sort of thing, so that it could spin. Well, it had rusted out, which is why they had to replace it. Ever since they replaced it, it's never moved as easy as it initially did. No. So this dude had the magic touch.
Such is life.
Yeah. Can't move me.
Nope.
In 1936, he up and moved all that shit to Homestead, Florida, using a tractor. And it took him 3 years to pick up each piece and reset it how he had it in Florida City.
He kept it in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't take it out. He didn't travel like a circus. But
so if you're
it took 3 years.
Plan on going to Florida.
And a tractor.
I don't know why you would, but this would be an attraction to.
I don't know a whole lot about tractor technology, but I think in 1936,
some of the best. For
a tractor to be able to pick up a 28,000-pound stone, I think it would be pretty impressive. Nobody saw him use the tractor to move this shit either. So he might have been using some of his trickery to load it up on the tractor and move it. He lived in a tower inside those 8-foot walls until his death in 1951. He was the age of 64. Had a stroke. He put up a sign outside the castle instead of, admission, whatever, tours. put up a sign that said going to the hospital because he'd been in poor health on the train ride to the hospital.
Not gone fishing.
No, hadn't gone fishing,
to
gone
the
to the hospital,
Yeah.
gone medicating.
Yeah.
He had a stroke. Homie had a stroke and then died at the hospital from a kidney infection.
Well, I think someone got him
Because shit was filthy back then.
the dye bug box.
Yeah, they put him
He
in the
opened
diabetic
it.
box.
Stroked out.
Yeah, found those pennies.
Yep. Cat piss.
Las Vegas. So, anyhow, since then it's been a tourist attraction, but there's been a lot of question. I guess some footage from the 30s recently surfaced that show him using like a pulley system, but it still wouldn't make sense for this little bitty dude to be able to use that much leverage
I'm picturing like a silent movie type
to move
footage.
20. Yeah,
Like
no, it's
piano
just
playing?
like that. You can watch it, but he's hoisting up these fat ass stones.
Yeah.
We're talking an average of 14 tons,
Mm-hmm.
and this little bitty dude's moving them, even with a sophisticated pulley system, which it was not. It was like a couple of trees with some
Shoddy
rope around
yeah.
them. Yeah.
Some
It doesn't make
vines.
sense for him to be able to move that stuff.
No.
Unless he was crazy strong, and he wasn't. He was 5 foot, 100 pounds,
And he
soaking
had
wet with a
TB.
brick in each pocket with tuberculosis.
Yeah.
And magnets.
You know it was coughing. Yeah.
So he cured TB with magnets, said that he knew how the Egyptians built the pyramids, moved all this crazy shit, which is now considered a national monument.
Here's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Tourist attraction still open today. After he died, it went to his, I guess his closest relative was like a nephew of his who only held onto it for a few years before he sold it to a family out of Louisiana.
It's like fucking
But yeah, he didn't give a shit. Couldn't appreciate art.
limestone.
Douche. So fucking cowboy. So he sold it off. It's since been sold a few times, and now it's owned by I guess whoever maintains it now. I think
Colonel
it's
Sanders.
it's the Colonel, the Colonel Fund.
National.
It's Indigo
Colonel
Unknown actually is who owns.
Yeah, we
not
bought it.
us. It's
Not us.
unrelated.
Yeah.
Different people.
The
But
people we stole the name from.
I think it's the Coral Castle Incorporated or some bullshit, but they maintain it
CCI.
today. But you can still go and see where he slept in that tower and all these different things that he built. You can still see the door that revolves, not as well as it used to, admittedly. But you can watch that footage. I think there's one of a little girl that walks up and like gently nudges it, and it just fucking spins freely, which it's a big old slab of like a double, like a French doorway size piece.
Limestone.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was lemon stone, probably be kind of light.
Yeah, kinda
usually
light.
hollow, but limestone,
Limestone is a different
it's got
story.
some weight.
Yeah.
It's got some weight.
A little more sour.
So anyhow, there's been plenty of speculation. Was it alien technology? Was it some kind of anti-gravity that he figured out? Magic? Were those pulleys really ahead of their time?
Marty McFly skateboarding Back
Yeah,
to the
here's
Future
the
3
hoverboard.
was made of limestone.
But for the dude to be able to cure himself of tuberculosis in 1918 and then move massive rocks that we'd struggle with today,
To move mountains.
when they had to repair the door, the revolving door,
With a huge
it took
rod.
6 dudes and a crane.
Yeah.
But he did it by himself, and it worked better than how they fucked with it.
I do not recommend looking up that video. 6 dudes in a crane. No.
Yeah, 6 dudes, 1 crane.
6 dudes, 1 crane.
It's not a crane like a piece of machinery.
Yeah,
it's a
you don't
crane
wanna
like a
look it up.
bird.
Yeah, bird.
And it's sick. It's sick.
6 dudes, 1
It's the
crane.
big ass crane that may or may not have been the Mothman. It's that big ass
Full
bird
circle.
and
full
6
circle.
dudes.
6 dudes, 1 crane.
So what we're trying to tell you is
Yeah.
don't look for the Mothman. Not when there's 6 dudes. It was probably those grave diggers. It was those same guys.
Yep. Bukkake.
Like, disgusting. Yeah. Ugh. So anyway. Oh, we're good at this.
Off trail. Track. Trail. Hey, trail now. I mean,
yeah. Well, I guess the door was
Yeah.
more on a pivot.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a track.
Yeah.
It was a big door.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Huge rod.
As if you go to Florida, you can see a big door.
Yeah.
A big piece of stone.
We should go there.
I don't think.
No.
No, we should.
I still want to go to the
The
museum.
occult museum.
The occult museum. That's
We'll set that as a via point.
Yeah.
We'll stop in Florida and then head up.
sidetrack it to Florida.
Hmm.
Maybe we get some bath salts. Try it out.
Might as well.
Yeah.
We're out of state. Do
Eastern-
what we want.
Eastern People, I don't know.
Anyhow, look up the footage. Look up that documentary, voiced by Leonard Nimoy. Listen to this episode. Form your own opinions. It's all the information you need. There's some people that doubt it. That say, he used these hand tools to carve the stones in whatever shapes, and then he was able to pull it off with this pulley system because he was a very intelligent dude. He actually wrote, I think, 3 books or 3 published essays or something regarding magnetism. So he may have known some shit that we just don't really fully grasp. He might have been ahead of that.
Slaves.
Yeah. He had a group of
Slaves.
slaves. He brought him out in the cover of Nightfall. Nobody can see me work because I bring out these 6 dudes and their crane.
Don't smile.
And the bird. Sweet Christmas.
Jesus.
Jeez. Anyway. So that's the mystery of Coral Castle. Next week, Waylon's picking the story.
Yes.
That's right. He's in the hot seat again.
I am.
So he chose the Mothman last week.
I did not. That's a big negative. We're sorry to the 2 listeners that had to listen to that bullshit.
And we appreciate you tuning in. If you stuck around,
Yeah.
we appreciate you tuning into episode 18.
If you didn't unsubscribe,
I would have.
I would have. And
Would have been disgusted by that.
I'd have destroyed my computer. Probably.
I would have killed myself if I had to listen to that. Thank God I didn't. Anyhow, we appreciate you tuning in tonight. If you did, you didn't. We know. We understand. That's fair enough. We'll get you back around episode 20. Stop that. Anyhow, that'll do it for Indigo Unknown.
Have a good night. More day.
Yeah, or day. I guess it doesn't
Whatever it
matter.
is, yeah.
Whatever. You can tune in whenever.
Yeah.
YouTube's a 24/7 service.
It is.
Oh, Merry Christmas, by the way.
Mystery guest.
Yeah, the mystery viewer is
We'll be back
decorating
before
for Christmas.
We'll be back before Christmas.
We better be.
No, we will.
Next week.
With an epic
That's the
topic.
idea.
Epic.
Yeah, that good one. Leave
Oh,
it to Waylon.
Episode 19.
And